Well, here we are back at Mary's Meadows. Episode 1 of this series was based here. It was a cold day, it was a windy day. I think it was barely 7 or 8 degrees, and it's now early June. It's about 20 degrees. It's only 20 past 8 in the morning on a Sunday, but it's very warm and humid. We came here in episode 1 to see the green-winged orchids, which this site is famous for, but I did say we'd come back and visit the lower field here of the 3 on this reserve, where the early summer orchids grow. It's common spotted orchids, and more in particular in terms of target for today, the heath spotted orchid. 2 very similar plants but different. And you can get hybrids between the 2, although it's very contentious as to what is or isn't a hybrid, but we'll take a look. The big gamble really is whether they're going to be out yet, because the common spottids are quite slow to emerge on some sites, but as with Castor Hanglands recently, they are out on other sites, and I'm not sure what the score will be here. No idea whether the heath spottids will be out, which is the main target species here, but yeah, we'll go down and take a look. It's a nice day. This is the green-winged orchid field, looking somewhat different to what it was a few weeks back. The grass has grown now, and most of the green-winged, well, nearly all the green-winged orchids here now have gone over. There's the odd one down here that's still hanging on. Still just about hanging on there, but most of them have gone over. I'll keep an eye out as we wander around just in case. Okay, we've trekked across Farmer Mary's fields now to the bottom corner of the bottom field, and it's this corner where the heath spotted orchids in particular grow, and they are in flower, not fully, but they are in flower enough for me to be able to share some footage with you. I'm going to try to demonstrate the best I can the difference between a heath spotted orchid and a common spotted orchid, because you need to put some effort in to actually spot the difference between the 2, but there are differences there. So there is a heath spotted orchid near my feet, so I'm going to get down and show you a close-up. Okay, well, here's a classically coloured heath spotted orchid. A lot of them are this sort of soft pinkish colour, but the distinctive features on a heath spotted orchid is they're a bit more sort of blousy, they're a bit more, they're wider, they're more round, they're less pointed, so you get this sort of almost petticoat shaped flowering. And the other key factor that makes them different to common spotted is the middle of the 3 petals. If you see the outside 2 as the big rounded petals, in the middle there is one that just sticks out at the bottom, the little pointed one, and it's that middle one that makes the difference really between more than anything else between the common spotted and the heath spotted, because it doesn't protrude very far, and the 2 wider petals on the flower are actually dropping down further, so that center point is not protruding way down below the flower. It is sort of sitting in amongst the 2 bigger and rounded petals. That sounds a bit of a long-winded and woolly explanation, but I'm going to find a common spotted one at some point in this field, and you'll see the differences. In terms of colours, pretty similar. You tend to get a lot more spots on a heath spotted orchid. This one isn't over spotty, but some of them around here will be, and I'll be able to show you that as well. But that is a heath spotted orchid. You can appreciate the spots more on this one. In fact, you look at this one and the classically spotted leaves, and you kind of wonder whether the one we saw previous to this might have been a hybrid between a common spotted and a heath spotted. But again, there's a lot of people that will argue that it was just a variation of a heath spotted orchid. But you know, there's a lot of similarities, but extremely spotted flowers on these. This is a distinctive heath spotted orchid. More spots, less lines. Now this to me is a common spotted orchid, primarily because of the lines on the flowers. Less spots, more lines, more of those classic common spotted orchid faces that you get. And if you see that centre petal, it's a lot more prominent than it was on the heath spotted orchid. and the flower is just generally more angular and less blousy and rounded than the heath spotted orchid is. So to me, common spotted orchid. A classically rounded and classically spotted heath spotted orchid. Definitely a common spotted orchid. You can see lines on the flower, and you can see that centre petal is very pointed and very prominent, and it's sitting right next to a heath spotted, so I can just move the camera very slightly to the right. Let's get this in focus. Yeah, and a classically rounded flower of the heath spotted orchid with that centre petal much more recessed than it is on the common spotted. Very distinct common spotted. Well, I was hoping I might be lucky enough to bump into one of these. These are rare. This is a pure white form of the heath spotted orchid. I'm not even sure I've seen one of these before, but there are absolutely no markings on it whatsoever. It's pure white, and the flower shape makes it distinctly a heath spotted orchid. That's a very nice find. Happy with that. That's a really nice heath spotted orchid, and that's exceptionally spotted. Very nice plant. A nice pink or light pink coloured heath spotted orchid. I think this is probably the orchid of the day. What a clonker. Absolutely superbly coloured plant, and again there's bits of common spotted in there, and there's definitely bits of heath spotted in there. You know, it's the sort of thing I would pencil in previously as a hybrid, but I wouldn't argue with anybody. It's hard to see that as a common spotted because it really is awash with spots rather than with the usual shapes of a common spotted. But yeah, the flower shape isn't really classical heath spotted, but that is an absolutely magical plant. Really, really nice. A youthful, newly emerged common twayblade. I'm not sure, I've never seen a common twayblade in Mary's Meadows before, but there's obviously a few around because I'm looking around down here. I can see quite a few, so yeah, that's another species for this reserve that I've not seen before. It's a pair of mating common blue butterflies. The male is the blue and the female is the brown. Beautiful things, and plenty of them on this reserve. Always good to see. Just sitting behind me in this field, I've just moved slightly away from where the heath spotted orchids are. Same field. This sort of small tree sitting behind me is sitting in the basin of an old pond. I have seen it with water in before, but not in the last 5 or 6 years. But every time I come here, I stop at this little patch of grass in front of this pond, because I think I've got to go back about 7 years now. There were 2 exceptionally rare frog orchids that grew here. People travelled from distances to try and find them, and they are mighty tough to see. Every year I come here, I sit down in this grass, and you have to get down low to stand a chance, and every year since then I've searched high and low and have not been able to find them at all. In fact, I've been pretty convinced they've gone, but I've just been burrowing around in the grass, and guess what? I've actually found one again, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have found a Mary's Meadow frog orchid. It's not quite in flower yet, so you probably look at it and think, what is that? But I can tell you it is a frog orchid for sure. So I'm going to shut up and try and get some footage of it now. There she is in the centre of your picture. That is a frog orchid. It's about 3 inches tall, and it hasn't quite fully opened yet, but those little flowers, if I can call them that, there's no colour to these. Again, it's a sort of green, brown, yellowish plant, but those little hoods coming out are meant to look like frogs. I've never quite worked that out, but that is a frog orchid, and I'm absolutely thrilled to bits to have found this again, because I really thought they'd gone. There's another one somewhere in this patch, and I'm not going to bother trying to find that one, but yeah, absolutely superb find. Well, that's a very successful trip to the lower field of Mary's Meadows. I thought I might catch the odd one in flower, but I mean, they're young plants still, the heath spotted, but they're in flower enough for me to demonstrate what they look like. A few common spotted as well, but absolutely thrilled to find the frog orchid. That is beyond expectation times 10. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm dead chuffed with that one. So I'll throw in the common tway blade as well, and the common spotted. You've got pretty much the full collection now, as far as I'm aware, of what this fantastic site has to offer. It's a bit of a trek across his meadows to find that site. I'm in the same meadow still now, and there's nothing growing around here. So if you want to come and see these fantastic plants, then yeah, drop me a line, and or leave a message underneath the video, and I'll get in touch with you and let you know where to look. Can't guarantee I can direct you to the frog orchid, because even if I try and nail it within 6 foot, it's going to be tough to find, but I'll do my best for you. So that's it. See you again next time.